Welcome to the Yappy Hour, powered by Yappily, the podcast for dog lovers who want to deepen their understanding of the dogs we share our lives with. I'm your host, Nathan Dunleavy, and in today's episode, we're joined by Clara from the Muzzle Movement. Clara's work is all about destigmatising muzzles and helping dog owners see them as an essential life skill, not as a sign of aggression. We also dive into the recent XL bully ban and what it means for dog owners, as well as why every dog, no matter their age, breed, or personality, should be muzzle trained. This is a must listen for anyone who wants to feel more confident and prepared in their dog care journey.
Hello.
Hi, Clara. Welcome to the Yappy Hour. Thank you so much for being here with me today. How are you doing?
Oh, thank you so much for having me. Yeah, we're really good. Wednesdays are our sort of like team meeting day. So we've had a day full of like loads of ideas. So yeah, I was excited
Lovely.
to come up and be able to like, have a minute.
So you're just buzzing around with lots of ideas and
Everything's
plans and stuff.
working.
Brilliant. Well, I know you're very, very busy, so I do appreciate you taking the time out to come on to the Yappy Hour to have a chat with me, Clara. So for those who may not know you or the Muzzle Movement, could you share a bit about the Muzzle Movement and what inspired you to start this incredible initiative?
Yeah, I love telling this story. So yeah, I originally, when I started out with what was the Muzzle Movement, which was supposed to be just sort of a advocacy and education page, I had a dog called Tolly, and he was muzzled, and he had a bite history. He was a rescue, and I got him at 7.5.
I read about Tolly, yeah.
He's very special. He's on the wall behind me. I experienced for the first time quite a lot of prejudice against him when we were out in public, with people saying things like, he shouldn't be here, you shouldn't be walking him in these places, when actually quite often it was their dog that was behaving inappropriately. Mine was quite often on a lead and muzzled.
The way.
Yeah, we had quite a few negative interactions, and I'd worked in rescue a really long time, so I knew that there was stigma of surrounding muzzled dogs, but I hadn't actually ever experienced it firsthand, with strangers throwing insults at me across the street. And I was like, well, I don't think I can do a huge amount here, but what I can do is start an Instagram and tell everybody about how amazing muzzled dogs are. And I made Tolly a muzzle because I
Yes.
had things that I wanted from a muzzle that I couldn't find, and I was like, oh well, it's not that hard, I'll just make one. And I shared it on Instagram just as sort of a side quest to what I was doing, and everyone was like, I think I want one of them. And I was like,
Oh,
oh, I think I'm onto something here. And naively was like, yeah, I guess I could sell these. And then before I knew it, I'd sold 800 in 30 days, and I had a
oh my,
fully
oh my
fledged.
God.
So yeah, I was like, oh no, what have I done? Because I had a full-time job. Yeah, I had eyes bigger than my belly, I think. And I was like, come on, I can help all these dogs. Yeah, no problem. I can help you. It actually took me like 8 months to get through those first 800 orders because I had no idea what I was doing. So yeah, that's how I ended up here.
Wow. So you just sort of fell into it, and then overnight it just went crazy.
Yeah, the intention was never to I wanted to make the world a bit of a better place for muzzled dogs. And if I could,
Yeah.
improve the welfare of muzzled dogs while I was doing it, I loved that. I didn't actually want to quit my previous job.
Oh, okay.
I love, I love this just as much, if not more. But yeah, at the
Of
time I
course.
was like, what have I done? So,
Oh
yeah,
my God, I love that.
yeah. I just woke up one
And
day and was like, I don't think I can do my job anymore. I haven't got
no,
time.
you had to cut back on, like you
Yeah.
say, your full-time job because this beast just grew into, you had to focus your time and energy onto it.
Yeah, and it
Oh
actually
wow.
worked out really well because I left my full-time role in May, and then sort of by September we had news of the XL bully ban happening, and then
Yep.
sort of by December, all was out the water, and there's no way I could have continued to be a senior training and behaviour advisor at Dogs Trust during that. So yeah,
Ah, that's where you were, the Dogs Trust. So it's not even been a year yet that you've left your full-time job. Oh my God.
yeah, so it's
Wow.
pretty great. It's just over a year now, because it
Just
was May the year before. But
Oh, it
yes,
was the May the year before.
yeah, it's just over a year. And this time last year we were a team of three, and I was calling in all my friends because the bully ban had just happened, and I was like, you need to come and help me.
Yeah, getting all
um,
your favours.
yeah, and I was like, quick, you need to come after work immediately. And so
Wow.
this time last year, yeah, we were a team of four just, and
Yes.
now we're a team of 12, and they're all
Oh,
fantastic.
wow.
Yeah,
God, you've like tripled your workforce, and
yeah,
yeah, it's just this big beast is just growing and growing. So we are
yeah,
going to be touching on the XL bully ban, later on in the episode. So I'm glad you brought that up. But as you already mentioned, muzzles can be such a controversial topic.
yeah.
Why do you think there's still so much stigma surrounding them?
Yeah, I think it's really difficult. I think that there's loads of reasons. I think there's this perception that in some ways muzzles don't allow dogs the same freedoms that they would have without a muzzle. So quite often we'll get comments on our social media like, well, if you don't like it, you should wear if you like them so much, you should wear them. Or how would you like it if I tied your hands together? They're not comparable. A muzzle, yes, there definitely are muzzles out there that are unethical and unsafe and shouldn't be
Sure.
used for long
Yeah.
periods.
Yeah.
But majority of dogs, muzzles provide them with freedom that they wouldn't have. So it's getting
Exactly.
freedom, not taking freedoms away. So that's quite a
Exactly.
big misconception is that, yeah, sometimes dogs need them to be able to do things other dogs don't need them to be able to do.
Yeah.
Um, and then I think that the UK's legislation around, when a muzzle should be used has a really big impact. So in the UK,
Yeah.
the only time that a muzzle is legally required is if you have this quote dangerous dog.
Yes.
And so that kind of plays into our perception of why that dog would be wearing a muzzle. We kind of jump
Yes.
to, well, obviously they've been forced to by this human that's not
Yes.
because it's the law.
Yeah, it's all just gone a bit nuts. No, I'm a big advocate of muzzles, and being a qualified dog trainer as well, I used to run puppy classes. So muzzle training was part of my puppy classes. It come
Absolutely.
as standard, and people were like, "Oh, this is a bit strange. Why are we doing this?" But I was like, "Well, every dog should be muzzle trained,
Yeah,
and if we can start to introduce them and desensitize them from an early age at a puppy."
yeah,
Then it's not going to be a big deal. And they're needed for the groomers sometimes, they're needed for vets. You do
yes,
not want your dog just having this thing forced on their face. It's already a stressful experience going to the vets,
yeah.
to the groomers. You don't suddenly want this thing that's not been trained or desensitized on your face.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think
Um,
the first time that dogs wear muzzles, it's just this like fun and novel experience. It doesn't have to mean anything. It can just be a really great game to help confidence build, putting their face into novel objects. It doesn't have to
exactly.
be because one day my dog may end up biting the vet. You don't know, but I think
Yeah.
at the moment, like we don't know what scenarios our dogs might be put in the next sort of 5, 10, 15 years. I think the bully ban,
Mm,
but also like I had quite a few interesting conversations this week because there's been lots of natural disasters over in the States. And I
yeah.
just like that sort of scenario where you're in an emergency, you don't know who's going to be handling your dog, where you're going to end up, you don't know if you're going to be, around other people, around other animals. Having the ability to prepare your dog for a scenario like that, just in case you need to be able to pop a muzzle on, it is sort of invaluable.
Yeah, yeah, without a doubt. I used to do it as the cone game. So they'd have like a cone and you'd sort of get the puppy used to the face going in the cone with some treats. The dog that sat on my lap now, he has no problems with popping his face into a bar or like a Costa Cup or something like that. So yeah, it's really important. I think it comes down to education again. And there's a number of reasons why a dog could be muzzled, which we can talk about. But yeah, thank you so much. So we mentioned the XL bully ban there then. So the XL bully ban was undoubtedly a huge talking point. How has that impacted the muzzle movement and the demand for muzzle training resources?
Yeah, I mean, significantly. We have, we, this time last year, the bully ban had just been implemented. We were just finding our feet and we were sort of flung into this new stratosphere. And I think it would be
Wow.
unfair to say, the XL bully ban didn't benefit us from a business point of view. Of course
Of
it did.
course, yeah, yeah,
And I think that's important to note because although we absolutely wish that it never happened, it forced us to move very quickly, which I think is
mm,
why we are further ahead than we would have been otherwise, because we were sort of flung into a position where we wanted to make sure that resources and muzzles were available immediately, um,
yeah,
those that needed them most. But the thing that we've probably, outside of obviously, sales for sizes that would fit XL bullies tripling, uh,
yeah.
we have hosted free fitting days, which are open to any breed. But
Wow.
breed that comes here more than any other breed is the XL bully or an XL
Is
bully.
it? Is it? Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
and they travel
Yeah.
all over. We've had
Really?
XL bully guardians have driven 8-hour round trips
Oh,
to
wow.
come and have a bit of support, because on our fitting days it's not just about how that muzzle fits, it's how we can introduce it safely the first time. Perhaps they've really struggled with different muzzles or even our muzzles, so it's sort of walking them through how we might want to introduce it for their specific dog, because sometimes
Yeah.
these dogs, they've had to wear a muzzle. They got 3 months notice, and that was if you believed it was going to happen, which a lot of people didn't. So muzzle training in 3 months is really hard.
It is. Yeah.
And
It
you're
just,
under all this pressure. So
yeah, it just came out of nowhere. And then, suddenly everyone's having to get muzzles and they didn't even know where to get them from. And, obviously train. And yeah, it was a really stressful time, I know, for a lot of XL bully owners. Great that they found you and that you put on these fitting days. What do you think is missing from the conversation about breed bands and muzzles in general?
yeah, I think that, well, there's a few things. There's, breed bans as a whole. I couldn't disagree with more. I,
Oh
it's
God, that's a whole other episode.
but in terms of specifically, the perception of dogs that have to wear a muzzle because they're legally mandated to, I think there's a lot of, oh, it's so sad that they have to wear a muzzle. Oh, it's so miserable. Oh, I would move out the country. I would never subject my dog to that. And I think, okay, fair enough. Like, if you think a muzzle is, that awful, but I think if they were to actually ask a lot of the XL bully guardians who've introduced their muzzle slowly and they've invested the time in an appropriate fit, and they've done all the desensitization and counter conditioning, those dogs aren't that impacted by the muzzle. They're more impacted
Mm,
by the public's perception,
the
by
perception.
the having to be on lead all the time, because being on lead, I think, is more restrictive than a muzzle in a lot of cases. Like, loads of muzzled dogs can have enjoyable off lead exercise with a muzzle on. um,
Yeah,
I think that a lot of people focus on how awful it must be for that dog to have a muzzle on, but actually there's loads of things awful about the bully ban, and a lot of the time it's not actually the muzzle.
it's not, and to the dog, it's probably not a big deal. Yeah, there's this alien
Yeah,
device, and they may not have had to experience that before. But from the dog's point of view, it's not really probably a bigger deal. It's everything else that's going on, isn't it? It's all the
yeah,
other crap that's surrounding it, unfortunately. And we mentioned about the owners as well. Obviously, they were feeling overwhelmed or they were feeling judged when their dog had to wear a muzzle. How do you think we can change this narrative to create a more supportive culture around what muzzle wearing?
yeah. I think part of that comes from the way that we talk about dogs that are muzzled. So if we're saying things and repeating things and putting them out in the world about how awful that must be, how uncomfortable that must be, we are reinforcing the narrative that they are awful.
Yeah, we're creating that negative narrative, aren't we?
And I think a lot of bully guardians have learned, actually, out of everything, the muzzle is not the worst bit. So they aren't saying, oh, I wish he never had to wear this muzzle. I think really they would prefer not to have to neuter and not, not to have to keep him on lead.
Yeah,
um, but yeah, I think that there's lots of work that can be done about the language that we use to describe muzzle
yeah,
dogs, and a lot of work
yeah,
that needs to happen on helping the wider population understand that, dogs aren't just muzzled because they are, quote, dangerous dogs. There's huge amount of reasons why dogs might be wearing a muzzle, and actually you haven't got a clue why that dog's wearing a muzzle, so don't worry about it.
yeah. Yeah. it all comes back to education again, and I'm
Yeah,
really big on sort of education and owners being educated. But this area in particular, like you say, there's hundreds of reasons why they could be wearing it.
yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
and it just comes down to education again. Brilliant, thank you. So we're going to move on to the importance of muzzle training for every dog. We've sort of already touched on it a little bit there, but why do you think it's so important for every dog, regardless of age or breed, to be muzzle trained?
Yeah, I think, like I mentioned before, you never know what scenario you're going to be in. If my worst case scenario is, I've got a small dog, I've got a very big dog, but I've got a very small dog. She's 12. My
Ah,
biggest fear is that we are out in public and, a larger dog bigger than her comes, bowls her over, she's injured in some way. And she's not good at veterinary handling. She's not good with strangers. She doesn't. She's lived with my partner for 8 years, and still now he can't pick her up to put her outside. He has to
oh,
ask her, and she does it of her own, free accord. But he can't put her under pressure to do that.
yeah.
So
Oh, bless her.
that's a big fear of mine, that we will end up in a medical emergency, and I might need help. I might need help. It's not just another dog. It could be that we get hit by a car. I don't know. I could need help as much as she needs help. We're in a car accident. I don't know. And I just think if she didn't have the skill of muzzles at that point, how would she have adequate veterinary care? It just wouldn't happen. And she's so
Mm,
special that I'd be like,
yeah,
honestly, just ignore me, sort her. So
yeah,
yeah. And on that note, my larger dog, my worry is potentially he could inadvertently injure somebody else, not livestock, wildlife in particular. I just think he's got such a high prey drive. He's muzzled all
yeah.
the time anyway because he's currently exempt, even though he's not an XL bully. But that's a whole nother
Oh,
topic. He
right.
could have been an XL bully when he's 8 months old, but now he's almost, yeah.
Oh, and there's that thing in it about if they fitted into type and it was all done
Yeah,
on height or something. And
yeah.
oh,
Yeah, but
it
he
was,
wears his muzzle all the time. So I've
yeah,
actually found in the last year of him wearing his muzzle, the amount of different contexts that I have used his muzzle, even though that wasn't the original intention of him wearing his muzzle. So when visitors come, he really hard mouths, which is not fun for the people that visit.
this, this one mouths.
Yeah, so we
Yeah,
use as a muzzle in that scenario, one, so that he can have safe and comfortable interactions with
yeah,
different people, but two,
yeah,
so that people visiting are more comfortable.
yeah. I'm not going around there. I get it.
And he's so big as well. Like when he's jumping up and mouthing it, it's really not fun.
It's not fun. I
No,
mean, this one does it because he's overexcited and
yeah,
oh, and then over aroused, and obviously he's mouthing because he wants attention. He's an attention seeker, but he's got all his other issues as well. But no, I mean it's another reason I wouldn't have even thought to put a
yeah,
muzzle on him to stop him mouthing because like my parents are getting older and they don't want him nipping at them and it hurts. Their
yeah.
skin is not as tough, so. I'm really interested to know what breed is the 12-year-old, the little one.
She is.
Please.
She's a Cavalier Cross Westie. So she's
Oh,
mostly. In fact, I don't know if you can see her. She's on the wall behind me. I've chopped her head off.
okay.
But she's Cavalier Cross Westie. But she gets called a puggle all the time. She's not.
Oh,
But yeah, she's exceptionally cute. She's called Pig, and I've had her for the.
she's
She's been
called Pig.
Pig.
I hope it doesn't give her a complex. That's for sure. For whatever reason, I thought you were going to say a Chihuahua because I've got three, and again, Chihuahuas have got such a bad rep, haven't they, as an aggressive
Yeah,
dog? When really they're just so spirited and got so much character.
absolutely. Yeah.
But because they're snarling and they're baring their teeth, they're deemed aggressive. So I thought you were going to say you had a chihuahua.
I mean, one of the girls in the team does have a chi, so we're big chi advocates here. And yeah, I
Oh,
think it's
great.
one of the things that really frustrated us in the bully ban was loads of people saying, "Oh, actually, they aren't the worst. XL bullies aren't the worst. You should see chihuahuas." And I'm like, no,
Yeah.
not breed stereotype one breed and then stereotype another one in defense of the other one.
And chihuahuas do get a bad rep. They're always used in courses and stuff. Yeah. Anyway, I could get on my high horse, but let's move on to the next question. So, what are some of the common scenarios where muzzle training can make a big difference for their dogs and their owners? I think, like we said about
Yeah,
the vets, the groomers. I
There's
really liked your example then of your own dog and
yeah,
visitors.
this is a big one. I think that if we utilized muzzles more when people come to the home, we wouldn't have so many dog incidents. Dog bites predominantly happen inside the home with people that we know, right? So
Yeah,
just because your dog is in the home and with people you know doesn't mean that that is a completely safe and void of risk scenario.
yeah,
I think that muzzles should be considered part of an option available to dogs that might need them. There's scavenging is another huge reason, probably
yeah,
second, I would say, most popular reason for people to choose a muzzle is dogs that eat items they shouldn't. They live in areas where there's bait or poison. Um,
yeah,
it might be that they ingest items they shouldn't, like they really enjoy toy play, but once they're bored with the toy, they try and swallow it.
yeah,
Or it could be that they eat poop, or they're on a special diet, so maybe they've got
yeah,
pushed or something, and they're not allowed to eat everything they come across. So there's
yeah.
so many.
There's loads of reasons, isn't there? Medical reasons. If it's an older dog, yeah, like you said, there's so many reasons. But it's just instantly people just like, oh, the dog's aggressive, and
Yeah,
we need to get away from that narrative because there,
absolutely.
there's there's a number of reasons. You know, we need to look beneath the surface and
That's
not
it.
judge.
It's putting off people that actually a muzzle would make their life significantly less stressful. You know, if you're walking a dog and you're worried about them eating everything they find and they have a medical condition that means potentially it's life threatening if they do eat that thing, and the reason they don't want a muzzle is because they're worried what people will think, that's hindering their welfare and their dog's welfare, which is really miserable when you think of it like that. So, yeah, I
Yeah.
think there is definitely this, like, we need to judge people less for the choices that they make
Yes.
for their individual dogs, and
Yeah.
in turn consider things for our own individual dogs that maybe we thought we wouldn't have previously.
And I think the XL bully ban has brought this shift and this focus more on muzzles, hasn't it? And I think if we can just like help educate the owners a bit more, even if it's done at the groomers, at the vets, at puppy training classes, if we can just help the owner navigate it, because most owners just want the best for their dogs.
Yeah, yeah,
And
exactly.
yeah, we need to not be quick to judge. So, talking about our owners, then, those that are nervous about starting muzzle training, what would you say is the first step that you would recommend?
Yeah, for me, I think there's loads of things that are great to do, but I think perhaps finding other people that use muzzles for all sorts of different reasons, right? Because I think when we are, a dog guardian and we're considering using a muzzle for the first time, we might think we are one of a minority of people that are going to use a muzzle because the dog is not aggressive, when actually it couldn't be further from the truth. The majority of people that buy our muzzles, obviously the bully ban is a huge one. Those dogs aren't aggressive dogs, usually. And then challenging. So if you were to follow us along on socials, the majority of dogs that are tagging us in their posts and stuff, they're just normal dogs that eat poo or like you know
Most do eat poo, or they eat horse poo, or they roll in fox poo. They might try and eat that.
That's it. You are not on an island on your own, and you aren't the only person in the world that's considering a muzzle. There's hundreds and hundreds of people that reach out to us every day asking whether we think a muzzle would be appropriate for their scenario. And our answer is
Mm,
always, it's always useful to have it. Even if you think, okay, but it's not that big of a problem, I can manage it, I can use baby gates, or I can keep them on lead, or I can, okay, I agree. All of those things are phenomenal management
yeah,
strategies,
management.
but so's a muzzle.
Yeah, and a muzzle. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's just breaking down that stigma, and we're starting to get there. So, how can we make muzzles feel like a normal and positive part of the life for our dogs?
Yeah.
That,
I think there's quite a lot to be said there for people showing their dogs living happy lives wearing a muzzle. I think
yeah,
people go to events and go, can a dog even drink through a muzzle? Yes, dogs can drink in muzzles. They can drink, eat if it's safe to do so. Otherwise, you get scavenger guards that prevent them from eating. But they can take treats through a muzzle. They can, regulate their body temperature.
they can pant.
Yeah, they can do everything that they could do before a muzzle, just can't do it with their mouth, right?
Yeah,
So I think that there's a lot to be said for people that show their dogs. They're out in public with their dogs, living a good life, sharing it on
Yeah.
social media, and making sure that people understand actually some of these dogs are living better lives than dogs that don't have access to muzzles, who might not, have the confidence to take them to the places that the confidence that a muzzle provides would give. So yeah,
Mm.
that's a big part. I think also there's learning more about muzzle fit. So quite often, if
Yes.
a member of the public comes to us for the first time, they're like, "I've tried a muzzle, but she hates it. She'll never wear a muzzle. They're awful. My dog hates them." And
Um,
quite often, that is the muzzle is not very well fit, so it's quite restrictive. The dog's not comfortable. They can't regulate their body temperature. They can't pant in the same way. And I probably wouldn't like that either if I was if I was a dog and I was like, no, I need to be able to cool down now. um,
yeah.
so I
Yeah.
think that has a much bigger impact than we realise, is if we
Yeah.
are putting restrictive muzzles on dogs and then saying, oh no, all muzzles are terrible because my dog hates them. We need to assess fit as much as we need to assess, how that muzzle was introduced.
Definitely. I don't think sometimes certain TV programs, how people are like, they were going on
No.
about a certain breed on This Morning
Yeah.
yesterday, and
Thought.
that's now that's now
Yeah.
gonna, you know,
Yeah.
probably start to take some.
I yeah, I think, yeah, the media has a huge role to play in the bully ban, but in the perception of, dogs. And I think that the same with, the images that rescues use, the images that vets use, images that trainers use. I think all of us, everybody in the, dog stratosphere, has a
Yeah.
responsibility to make sure that when we're talking about muzzles, we're using appropriately fitting muzzles, because that might be the only time that person sees a muzzle. If that's what they think is normal, then they need to use a muzzle in the future. That's what they'll reach for, because that's what they've
Yeah.
seen. So we have a responsibility to make sure that, especially as professionals that are giving advice to the public, that we are advising them not just
Definitely.
to safely introduce a muzzle, but how to make sure that that muzzle is safely fit as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Because you don't want a dog that's got, got one that's uncomfortable or too small or too big, and
And
you
it
know.
makes it harder as well. Like when I was in rescue, there wasn't many muzzles available, right? And these dogs are already really distressed. They're in kennels. Quite often, they're not getting out for as often as they'd like. They don't have the same human contact time. They might have just suffered like a really traumatic loss, or an
Yeah.
experience that has thrown their, social and safety network out of the window. And we're
Yeah.
saying, on top of all of that, I need you to learn a new skill in this thing that is not going to be comfortable. And it means
Yeah.
they're in kennels longer, the training takes longer, they don't get in a home. There's this likelihood that
Yeah.
behavior complications might arise due to the duration of time in kennels. So it's just
Yeah.
a ripple effect, and it starts with, is it actually going to be comfortable?
Yeah.
That's mine.
Yeah. Well, if I was wearing one, I'd want it to be comfortable and I'd want it to be colourful like yours are and full of bling.
I mean, it's a terrible example, but it's a lot like the COVID masks. Like, sure, we could have all worn the PPE, but we all got
We all
right.
we did, didn't we? I got some with my business
Yeah,
name, like my business name on, and got them all branded because I think I'm going to wear it. I might as well.
exactly. And if it's going to keep you safe, you'll wear it. But if you're going to wear it, it's going to look cool.
It's got to look cool. And before COVID came in, I used to see like certain people from different countries wearing masks. And you're like, oh, I wonder why they wear that. And then again, there was a stigma around wearing the mask, and then it had to come the norm. And
Yeah,
people are still wearing them now, and that's
exactly.
okay
Yeah,
if they choose to want to wear it. Brilliant. Thank you so much. So let's move on then to talking about some of your success stories, your awards and advocacy. The Muzzle Movement has won multiple awards, multi award winning. What do these recognitions mean to you in the work you're doing?
yeah. I think that everything we've done in this last year has felt so magical. Like the first ever stand at Crufts that was completely dedicated to muzzles. Like that's never been done before.
That's
The
massive.
Yeah, like being, we've had our muzzles on TV. We've had, people from YouTube come and visit and tell stories about us and our story. And, I think the awards is just the sort of icing on the cake, really. It's like people see what we're doing and they think that we are doing a really good job. And quite often when you're in the thick of it and you're juggling 10 plates and, running around like this chicken, you forget there's actually people watching and hoping that you do well.
Exactly.
Sometimes you do get a bit bogged down, with the bully ban. We missed deadlines. We were inundated. We wanted to make sure we got them out quick, and sometimes we were slower than we wanted to be. And sometimes you get bogged down with that stuff. So it's nice to step back and be like, look where we are a year later.
Look where, yeah,
That's
look at what you achieved.
easy.
That's amazing. And it was to be expected that you were just thrown in at the deep end, really. So if there were a few delays, like it couldn't be helped. So
Yeah,
you were doing your best.
I'm learning. I've never run a business before. I've never managed a team of 12.
It's-
I didn't know how to manufacture anything.
And you said about being a business owner, you are spinning a lot of plates. So
Yeah,
you've gone from like being employed to being a business owner and having staff. And like you say, it's like, and you forget about some of the stuff. And it's nice just to be able to then be recognised for all the hard work you're
yeah.
doing.
When you're competing against really big brands, they're doing some really cool stuff. And when people say no, like we like the message that they have, and I think that
Yeah.
is reflected in the public's perception of muzzles changing, but also like pet professionals' understanding of muzzles is changing as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's really cool. When I started, I came with what I thought a muzzle should fit. And I had a dog and I was like, meh, I think I can do better than this. But before that, I'd never thought about it. Like, not
No.
only had I thought there are alternative muzzles available for the dogs that I was working with in rescue, only when it was my dog and I was like, I want to be able to deliver treats easier now, was I like,
Yeah.
I can fix this. Which I'm like, duh, like you've had those problems your whole life with dogs. Yeah, it's nice to
Oh,
to that.
brilliant. Do you have I mean, you get tagged and sent loads of messages, and I appreciate it's hard to keep up with them, but is there a favourite success story from an owner or dog that's benefited from your resources that stands out at all?
I think we've got so many. I mean, we're always told, oh, my dog's worn its muzzle for 10 minutes for the first time ever, or
Oh,
my dog is able to make friends with my mum's dog who he's never met before because I feel relaxed and happy and safe, and they're having safe interactions. And but I think for me the one that I think like deserves an honorable mention, I suppose, is we have a friend that we knew from Dogs Trust who adopted a dog on the 29th of December, right? She was like
yeah.
last year, 29th of December, just before the XL bully ban. He's called Hippo and he's this big sort of bull headed XL bully. And she was like, you're with me. And Hippo, he'd been wearing a really small muzzle. He'd been introduced to a muzzle, and he actually came and he tried on our size Harry, and it was too small for his big, chunky head, which is
Oh,
fair enough. That happens. So he had a muzzle that didn't fit him very well. His Harry wasn't a really good fit. So he helped us design the size bigger. So the first sort of 6 months of this year, Hippo came 5 times to our unit, and he is gorgeous.
oh,
Absolutely just chef's kiss, perfect temperament. I am so mad I did not take him home.
oh, you're getting hippo envy.
Yeah, I have got hippo envy, but he was saved at the 9th hour from euthanasia because that
I
would have,
think I saw something about this.
yeah,
Yeah.
he actually made it onto BBC. So yeah, he came and helped design this size for us. He came to the unit 5 times. We had all these different versions of the size Mitzi, which is the size bigger than Harry. And then, he was the first one to get his hands on it. He road tested it, got it out there in the public. And, now he's living his best life. He's been on TV.
Oh,
Yeah, he was on BBC, he was on ITV.
he's
Like,
a little celeb.
yeah, he is. He's like a perfect example of an XL bully because he's just so gorgeous in every way. He's
Well, he's
like
advocating for the breed.
exactly, yeah. He's like I will show everybody XL bullies are friendly. I promise.
XL bully mascot, and I'm a big believer in like being your dog's superhero as well. I've said that in a couple of other episodes, so it definitely sounds like he's found his superhero as well.
Absolutely. I
Um,
just think they've not only have they changed Hippo's life, but bringing him to our unit 5 times. It's not that they're not very local. Like there was no benefit for them in that. I wasn't paying them. That they didn't get free and discounted stuff. They just wanted to make sure that other dogs like Hippo had access to appropriate muzzles. And I just
yeah,
think what Hannah and Hippo did for us, but also for every dog that fits in size Mitzi is crazy because she didn't have to do that.
No.
So
Oh, that's
yeah,
amazing.
really special.
It's really nice when you hear sort of like heartwarming stuff like that, particularly on a cold, chilly day.
Yeah, there's so many phenomenal people that have helped us out along this journey, and I just think like you didn't have to do that, but they do it because they love muzzled dogs or they love their breed or and I just think
Exactly.
how magical's that?
Yeah, so magical. Thank you. So, what would be your vision for the future of muzzle awareness and training in the UK and beyond?
Yeah, I think that I would like to see more people open to the idea of introducing a muzzle, or at least less of an adverse reaction when a muzzle is potentially mentioned,
Yeah,
either by the trainers, veterinary practices, groomers. I would like there to be a higher level of understanding of how to introduce a muzzle, because sometimes when we're introducing a muzzle for the first time, we want to move really quickly, and that kind of confirms our perception that that muzzle is not very nice because and the dog's like, no, I
mm,
don't like it, it's on my face now. And I think that if we understood actually it's something that takes time, it's not a 2 day thing, it's a two, three,
no,
4, 5, 6 week, 5 minutes every
yeah,
day thing. Then I think that more people would have more success with introducing a muzzle, because I think a lot of people try and they go, I've tried it, it didn't work. And I'm
they give
like,
up.
nah, we can do it better this time.
Yeah, with any training, it takes time.
Yeah.
You get out what you put in, really, but some people unfortunately do want that quick fix, and they're not prepared to put in the effort and the time.
Yeah, and I think as well, I think that there needs to be a wider understanding of, muzzles aren't exclusively for bully breeds. Like they're just not. There's so many small dogs, big dogs,
Yeah,
elderly dogs absolutely can benefit from a muzzle if they're going to the vets more or if they've got medical conditions.
definitely,
And I think
definitely.
something the UK is not great at, which other countries are, like France, for example, it's the law that all dogs wear muzzles on public transport. So
Oh, okay.
isn't the same perception in France. If you see a dog out on the tube station waiting to get on a train, there's no thought in that person's head, oh, that dog's dangerous. Because it's not, because it's just getting on a train. And I don't
And
think,
well,
oh, go
the
on.
owner's just no, the owner's just being a responsible dog owner by, you
Exactly.
know, yeah,
And I don't think that we should have, blanket muzzle rules at all. I just don't think that that's right. I don't think that's the way that we should be going about, oh, well, the way we can reduce dog attacks is actually every dog wears a muzzle. I think that's so silly. I think that
mm,
actually, if the people that had dogs that were a higher risk were more comfortable using a muzzle in a variety of different scenarios, not just, oh, well, when they're out in public, I'll put a muzzle on. Okay, but if the risk is in the home, then let's use it in the home. That's fine. Um,
yeah,
yeah, I think that dog bites would go down, and that doesn't involve every dog in the UK needing to wear a muzzle. It just involves the right
no.
dog and the right people using a muzzle in the right context.
Yeah, fantastic. We would just like to see a few more dogs, different dogs in them, really.
Yeah.
Start up a bit of a trend on TikTok. So this question was thrown in by Kelly at Yappily, actually. So you've had recently the incredible opportunity to speak at the Houses of Parliament. Now I've got to get this right, as part of the all-party Parliamentary Dog Advisory Welfare Group. Could you tell us about that experience and what message you wanted to share with policymakers and the importance of muzzles and stuff like
Yeah.
that? Wow.
That was so cool. I have never had an opportunity to do anything like that before in my life. I've never even been to the Houses of Parliament, let alone in the Houses of Parliament. And I was like, whoa, can't believe this is my life now.
Wow.
Cool. I think
Pinch me moment, pinch me moment.
yeah, it was. And I was like, I don't think, and you're not allowed to take videos or pictures inside, right? So I was like, what do you mean? You
Oh.
can show people.
Yeah, I want it for the gram.
Yeah, I was like, come on, this is TikTok worthy. But no, it was
What an
really
amazing experience.
it was phenomenal to be invited, to be honest, because I just think it's such a quote hot topic at the moment, and I think if momentum is here and people are talking about it and we can help that continue and we can move forward with actually changing the way that muzzle dogs are perceived, then we should, even if it's come from the back of something really awful, maybe we can do some good on the other side of it. So that
Mm.
was phenomenal. And I think they were also open to, listening and learning about appropriate fit and understanding, why dogs wear muzzles. Because I think, the average person, including people, in Parliament, have
Mm.
absolutely no idea why
No,
dogs.
no clue.
So
Yeah,
I think that was a really cool opportunity to sort of shine a spotlight on us and what we're doing to help, but also
good.
what they can do to help, which is, change the language they use, consider, not having this knee-jerk, visceral response to dogs in muzzles.
Mm.
It's just, yeah, it was really, really cool. I loved it.
Good. Are you going? Are you going to be going back, or
So
you know?
I've been invited as part of the app dogs. So they have like a meeting where they go through different policies and stuff that's coming up, and
Mm.
like almost like working groups is a good way of putting it.
Yes.
And realistically, right now we do not have the time. I was like, oh, I really, really want to, but like I have a team of 12. It's all the way in London. Like I just don't know whether I can. So that we've sort of mentioned potentially that there is the possibility I could chip into things over email. I already made some brilliant connections there. A few of
Oh,
them I
good.
so I followed a few of them up, sort of vets that are pioneering better breeding and to make sure that, we aren't breeding dogs that have significant medical conditions from birth, sort of thing. Um,
Yeah.
and I just think maybe there is something that I can do to support those people on their mission as much as they supported me on mine. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's really cool.
Definitely. Oh, how exciting. Thank you. Right, we're going to start wrapping up this episode in the last sort of 5 or so minutes, just with some final questions, etc. So thank you. So, Clara, what's one thing you hope our listeners take away from this conversation about muzzles and their importance?
Yeah. So number one would be any dog can benefit from muzzle training. That is the most simple message I could deliver.
Absolutely.
And then number two would be there's so many reasons that dogs wear muzzles. You don't know, so don't judge.
Exactly. Brilliant. If you could give one piece of advice to a dog owner that was feeling uncertain about muzzle training, what would it be?
It would be find your community, so find other people who have experienced the same, potential thoughts about the perception of their dog wearing a muzzle, and to speak to a force-free trainer about it. I think that, or us, we're happy to, but I think that being able to sound off to someone and who can reassure you that you are doing what's right for you and your dog in the scenario
Mm,
that's so unique to you and your dog. And sometimes I think you just need a bit of external reassurance that it's not cruel, it's not mean, it's keeping you safe, it's keeping them safe. It's a great decision.
definitely. Brilliant. Thank you. Clara, thank you so much for joining me on the Yappy Hour today. It's been an absolute pleasure to hear your insights and to learn more about all the incredible work you're doing with the Muzzle Movement. Your dedication and passion to destigmatizing, can't even say that word, muzzles, and promoting them as a positive life skill for all dogs is truly inspiring. The muzzle movement is making such a huge difference, not only helping dog owners feel more confident, but also in creating a safer, more understanding environment for all dogs. Your work is changing perceptions and making life better for so many dogs and their families. And I'm sure our listeners will take so much away from this conversation. Clara, how can people find out more about you and the muzzle movement if they want to get in touch?
Thank you so much. That was so sweet. So, yeah, you can find us on social media. It's The Muzzle Movement or our website, themuzzlemovement.com. So we're super easy to find.
Yeah.
We've got a unit which is in the Midlands. So if you're anywhere near the Midlands and you need a
Oh,
bit,
okay. I did wonder where you were.
yeah, well, I'm Leicestershire. So if that helps
Yeah.
people
Yeah.
travel all over the place to come, and all the support that we offer here, it's a team of certified professionals. We can help with any muzzle related challenges or struggles that they might have, so we're more than happy to do that.
Perfect. Perfect. And that website again is the muzzle movement one word.com. We're going to finish on two final questions. Who else do you think we should invite on this podcast? I'm
Yeah.
sure you know lots of people. Who do you think we should invite?
So the two businesses that I have helped us significantly since the beginning. So there's Tug Enough, who
Yes.
when we launched, I was like, "What am I doing?" And I got a social media manager who actually also manages Tug Enough, and she was like, you know what? There is definitely
Oh,
some sort of
synergy here.
yeah. And I was like,
Yeah.
perfect, because I don't know what I'm doing. So
Wow.
yeah,
Big reveal for our listeners. Danny from Tugging Off is coming on. So watch this space. I'm just chatting with Lara at the
yeah,
moment and getting Danny on. So that's a big reveal for our listeners that he will be coming on. I love Tugging Off. So
yeah. It's
yeah.
really good.
Okay. Anyone else? You said there was two businesses.
Yeah, the other one was Perfect Fit. So
Oh yes.
yeah, all the professional events we've done this year, I've been like, oh, there you are again. And
I,
they
I they've been help. I'd love to get a contact for Perfect Fit if someone can sort of hook a guy up because I don't. I love the harnesses and it's all I recommended again in training. So yeah, Perfect Fit as well. Then you reckon?
so Ree, who does their social media, I don't think she'll mind me saying that. So Ree does their social media. She's actually got a dog called Reggie who's testing a prototype for a new size for us at the moment. So there's
Oh wow.
they've given us, some harnesses for some of the older girls that we've got at the unit. They bring their
Yeah.
dogs stuff, and yeah, I think they've helped us a lot as well, like helping us network with suppliers. They've provided us with some of their biggest suppliers since we aren't, in contradiction with the product they're selling. They've sort of said, who would love your muzzles? This person who's our biggest customer, and they have not blinked an eye at sharing that with me. And I just think so special that we're on the same mission and you want dogs to be served better, so you're happy to share that, like most businesses would never.
Yeah. That's what it's all about. There is collaborating, isn't it, and helping each other. No, two great names there. So yeah, watch this space. And one final question: if your dog or any dog could describe how they feel about their muzzle, what do you think they'd say?
I actually think that my dogs would probably be like, well, what is it, doesn't matter,
What's
like whatever.
what's
Yeah,
what's all the fussle about? What's the big deal? Give me a treat.
yeah, I think we think muzzles are a big deal, but actually the dogs think, okay, I'm going for a walk, cool.
Yeah,
So I don't think that he thinks mind-blowing things. I think he's very lucky. He's had a great muzzle from the offset. It's never impeded his ability to do anything that he wants to do. And he thinks that is part of my normal walking equipment. Let's go.
I like that. To them, it's a non-event. It's just part of the equipment, like a harness, a lead or collar. Like let's just go. Brilliant. Clara, thank you so much for being here today. I know how busy you are and how busy it is at the Muzzle Movement. Thank you to our listeners for tuning in. And I'll see you next time on the Yappy Hour, powered by Yappily. Bye bye. Right. What an insightful conversation with Clara from the Muzzle Movement. I hope you found it as eye-opening and encouraging as I did. Here are a few key takeaways from our chat that really stood out to me. Number 1. Muzzle training is not just for certain breeds or situations, it's a valuable life skill for every dog. Whether it's a vet visit, a trip to the groomers or an emergency, having a dog that's comfortable wearing a muzzle can make a huge difference for their well-being and your peace of mind. Number 2. The recent XL bully ban has highlighted just how much stigma still exists around muzzles. Clara reminded us that muzzles aren't a sign of a bad dog, they're a tool to keep dogs and people safe, and normalising their use benefits everyone. Number 3. Positive reinforcement is the key to successful muzzle training. Starting slow, using rewards, and making the experience fun for your dog are the foundations of creating a positive association with the muzzle. Number 4. Changing the narrative is crucial. The Muzzle Movement's work is helping to destigmatise muzzles, creating a more supportive culture for all dog owners. Clara's message was clear. Muzzles are for safety and are not a reflection of your dog's behaviour or character. Clara, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and passion with us. Your work is making a huge impact on dog owners and helping dogs live happier, stress-free lives. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider leaving a review or sharing it with a fellow dog owner. And don't forget to check out the Muzzle Movement's website and social media for resources and tips to get started with muzzle training. Thanks for listening to the Yappy Hour, and I'll see you next time.